Good morning. My role today is to speak of Roberto as a colleague and on behalf of his many co-workers, many of whom are here today, at least 3 of the elected members of the Arlington County Board, and many of whom who are actually in New Orleans at the annual conference of the American Planning Association, which would be okay with Roberto, provided they're eating and drinking and having a good time. And so I trust that they are. You know, one of Roberto's most distinguishing characteristics, however, is that he did not live in 2 worlds, family and work. He lived in one world. You could not work with Roberto and not be a friend and a part of a family. I had the privilege of knowing Roberto his entire career in Arlington County, and in fact, I'm the reason he almost did not have a career in Arlington County. Back in the 1980s, Emily Cross, my wife, worked in Arlington County long before we got married. She worked in personnel and worked in a department that included parks, position department which Roberto was applying for a job. Together we did the recruitment for that position. I tell this story because Roberto taught us much in that recruitment process. He came in for a very traditional American interview. What are your strengths? What are your challenges? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, etc.? You know this interview? Yes, you do. Roberto had a great resume and he did an awful job on the interview. As we were trying to get him out the door, he asked if he could show us his portfolio. Well, largely to be polite, we said, okay. And suddenly, Roberto's demeanor changed completely. He became alive and animated as he talked about his projects that he had worked on, and suddenly we realized we came that close to losing our best candidate. In the description of his work, Roberto explained the value of an ancient concept in Mexico, but one that we're still learning in America. The importance of creating civic place. He understood that building spaces that work for people and bring people together builds a better community. Arlington now shares this value, and this very afternoon will begin construction on a major new public space in Crystal City, which in its first generation certainly did not have any. And in the 1980s, we still did not fully appreciate the importance of public space. Roberto has been very much a part of our education since he joined us. In recent years, I've shared offices with our colleague, Gabriela Curios here. She has been Roberto's very good and dear friend. I have been Roberto's worst friend. I know this because Roberto would stop to see me when he was visiting his good friend and let me know in no uncertain terms what a bad, inconsiderate, and ungrateful friend I was. Now, my wife read this and she said, no, Roberto loved you. He was just kidding. I said, yes, I know he loved me, or else he wouldn't come by to see me. But no, he wasn't kidding. Because Roberto was everybody's best friend. And no matter how bad a friend you were, Roberto never gave up on you. Roberto just wanted me to be, when it came to friendship, a little less American and a little more Mexican. Now, Roberto, without peer, was the best dressed man in Arlington. I was thinking today, I wonder what Roberto would wear. And I picked out this tie hoping that he would like it. He was also the most handsome, charming, and most attractive to women. We also know this because Roberto frequently told us so. I, however, would remind him that the only woman in the world who could possibly tolerate him was his dear Romelia, and that he should thank God every day for sending this saint to earth to take care of him. Yes, right? You know what I'm talking about. And Roberto did worship Romelia very deeply. This was abundantly clear to anyone who had the privilege of sharing the warm hospitality in Roberto and Romelia's beautiful and loving home. Roberto was extremely proud of his children and Emily and I were honored to be included in their graduation parties and their daughter's wedding. When the first grandchild came along, Roberto was elated. He had pictures all over the place. As I said, Roberto did not separate family and work. If you worked with Roberto, you were part of the family, and he shared everything, including the thing he prized most in the world, tamales made by his mother-in-law. Another person who he worshiped deeply. Now, professionally, during his later years, Roberto effectively served as Arlington's architect. He was a major force as Arlington became intensely urban. Not only did he help create civic spaces, he worked to improve the overall architectural image of Arlington, spending hours behind the scenes with private architects who improved their buildings. It wasn't so much that the architects didn't want to build good buildings, but they could only design what their developers were willing to spend money to build. Roberto would use the leverage of county approvals and his own deep knowledge of good architecture to help his fellow architects achieve their potential. So as you drive through the urban parts of Arlington and you see the newer and better office buildings, know that they are an enduring monument to our dear friend and colleague. Think of Roberto and send him a message. Roberto, not only were you good looking, you made us as a community better looking. My last best memory of Roberto was his honoring me at my retirement. Roberto, my dear friend, I hope that I have honored you at yours. May you rest in peace, my dear friend.